Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Great America Show. It's great to have you with us today. A lot going on this week. Tim Walz and J.D. Vance faced off for the first time, and it was rough for Tim Walz. The moderators who said they wouldn't moderated J.D. Vance constantly, fact-checking him constantly when they were even wrong. Tim Walz wasn't really much about China, just about his visit to Tiananmen Square, but wasn't asked about his business dealings or anything he had done with China. I want to bring in today's guest. He's Lee Smith. He's got a brand new book out. It's called Disappearing the President: Trump, Truth Social, and Fighting for the Republic. Lee, it is great to have you with us here today on the Great America Show. I want to start with first that debate between J.D. Vance and Tim Walz. Your takeaways from it. I mean, it wasn't, in my opinion, I don't think it was as bad as the Trump and Biden one as for moderation, but it still wasn't 50-50. Your thoughts?
Well, I mean, everyone has to expect that. And that's why we see people on social media, whether it's Twitter or Truth Social, saying the Republican candidates need to stay off of mainstream television. And I agree 100%. I think it's a disaster. People continue to walk into this trap. Then people continue to be surprised when the moderators turn out to be biased. I mean, let's remember, for starting in 2016, these same figures at CBS and CNN and NBC, they all accused Donald Trump of being a Russian spy, right? That's where the operation was. It was on it was the media. The media was the platform. Russiagate never would have happened without the media. The FBI could have said whatever they want, but how do they get that message out to people? How do they try to target Trump? Through the press, the Washington Post, the New York Times. So again, the idea that somehow a Republican candidate is going to get a fair shake is preposterous. I mean, what did happen, though, is Vance, I think that everyone recognized that Vance had a very strong performance. He sounded knowledgeable. He sounded buoyant. He wasn't grumpy or angry, as people accuse him of often being. So I thought he came across great. I thought that given the but I have to say, given the expectations for Tim Walz, that, I don't think he was as bad as most everyone else was saying, to be honest. I mean, the guy's been the governor of Minnesota for a while. He knows how to do public speaking, and he wasn't as bad as Joe Biden. He wasn't as bad as Kamala Harris. So, yeah.
It's funny you say that Tim Walz wasn't as bad as, because I just spoke to my father this morning. He's probably one of the smartest people I know. And I said, because I was watching bits and pieces of it as I was on a plane. And I said, what did you think? And he said, JD, exactly what you said. JD came out very strong. Yeah. And we didn't think Tim Walz was as dumb as we thought, but it was just because I don't think they gave him, the old saying is, you give the man enough rope, he'll hang himself. Yeah. I don't think they gave Tim Walz enough rope to hang himself. But the media complicity in all of this, Lee, is totally sickening, and you read about it in your new book. President Trump was asked to go on 60 Minutes again for an interview. And he said, I will come on 60 Minutes again, which, as an advisor to President Trump, if I were, I would tell him, you stay 100 miles away from these people. All it does is hurt you. And it's the same reason he shouldn't debate again, because all it does is hurt you. When you're winning, you don't debate, because there's no reason, because they'll find a way to bring you back down. So Trump says, you know what? I'll come on 60 Minutes under one condition. Now, you would think the condition was they can't ask him X, they can't ask him Y. The one condition is that Leslie Stahl apologizes to him for the interview he cut short, where she had vehemently said the Hunter Biden laptop was Russian disinformation, which we know, and we knew back then, Lee, was a lie. Your thoughts?
Well, God bless the president. I mean, he's right to ask for it, and I believe that I believe there's some kind of civil suit or some kind of legal action with the Pulitzer Prize Committee, because they're, the Trump campaign or the Trump organization, I don't know who exactly it is, but is furious. And actually, this is not in the new book, but when most recently, when I spoke with the president several months ago, he raised this issue. He said, the Pulitzer, they should take back all these rewards from the New York Times and the Washington Post who were reporting Russiagate, and it was all a lie. I'm like, yeah, I know. I wrote about that in my first book, Plot Against the President. Right. And I called up, I spoke to the Pulitzer people. They said, no, we're very happy with who won the prizes. Look, these people will never, ever admit they're wrong. That's their whole thing. So again, for nearly a decade, conservatives, Republicans, dissidents, the opposition, whatever we want to call them, and saying the press must apologize and they have to set things right and they have to say that they got it wrong. They just for the sake of clarity, they must admit they got things wrong. Look, let's remember, these are the same people who are behind a massive censorship campaign to shut people up who say things that they don't like about the voting procedures, about harvesting ballots, about ballot boxes, about requiring photo IDs, and censored people who were complaining about having to wear masks or didn't want to take the vaccine. So the idea that any of these people are ever going to apologize for any of these indignities, and some of them are worse than indignities. I mean, serving as a platform for leaks of classified intelligence, I mean, that's criminal, right? So the idea that somehow they're going to apologize for any of this is crazy.
Well, okay, so we spoke about just now one aspect.
Yeah.
And they pushed out fake stories. They got away with it. And in a lot of cases, they won Pulitzer Prizes. But now we've moved into a new dimension, Lee, after President Trump has had 2 assassination attempts on his life. And you're often hearing people say, who do we blame for it? Who is to blame? And they're blaming Trump, saying his rhetoric. For anyone who's watched Trump over the last 2 years, Trump's rhetoric, I mean, is down 150% from what it was in 2016. 2016, he was fun. He was out there. He was laughing. He's strictly business now. The rhetoric, there is no rhetoric. There's no there, as the Democrats like to say. But the Democrats now, what they've done, Lee, is they've ramped up an attack now. It's more than just on paper and Pulitzer Prizes. They've ramped up attacks, which now has the president's life at stake. I mean, how will these people be held accountable, Lee? What do we do to make this stop? If this is happening from them, if it's from a deeper state, we'll say it's a whole different story.
Well, I mean, there's no way to hold them accountable aside from not to watch them, right? You hurt their audience, but I mean, again, of course, we're in an entirely we're in a new system in many ways, right? Where audience share doesn't matter to them. I mean, look at the Washington Post. The Washington Post, they've been hemorrhaging readers. And, so they've been firing some people. But the fact is that the newspaper's not making money. It made money during the Donald Trump era when they published lies about Donald Trump. But I mean, they're getting crushed right now. So, but that doesn't matter because Jeff Bezos is a multi-billionaire. So he can keep that thing open as long as he wants. The best thing to do is just the only thing we can do is really just ignore it. But you're quite right about the media's rhetoric that's driving the violence. And it's not just against Trump supporters. It's not just against the president. It's against Trump supporters as well. Remember, this has been going on since 2016, and they'll never be held accountable by themselves. They'll never be held accountable by the law. So President Trump is operating in a very dangerous environment. They've not only buried the fact of these 2 assassination attempts, but as you say, whenever they do talk about it, they say, well, it's all Donald Trump's fault. It's his rhetoric. It's only his rhetoric bouncing back on him. So that not only justifies the past, it also pre-justifies the present, the future, right? It sets the predicate for future violence against Donald Trump and against his supporters. If only Trump and his supporters can be held responsible for their rhetoric, then no one else can be blamed for it, right? So, sort
of oxymoron, Lee, because you say that Trump incites violence. Trump's probably the least violent president we've ever had, as it pertains to not getting us into new wars, as to trying to get us out of wars, and as for not keeping us as the world police getting involved in everybody else's wars. We're talking with Lee Smith, author of a brand new book. We're going to talk about it on the other side of this break. We're coming right back. Stay with us. Folks, are you tired of supporting big box stores and multi-billion-dollar corporations that don't support us? Corporations that donate tens of millions of dollars a year to push woke Marxist Dem ideologies? Whether it be Amazon and Jeff Bezos or Target with their transgender clothing for kids, or even Bud Light going totally woke, enough is enough. Why should we as lovers of this country continue to support these corporations? The answer is we shouldn't. I constantly get people who reach out to me and ask, John, what can we do to save this country? Where can we shop and support American-made brands and conservative ideologies? Well, we now have a solution to stop shopping at these woke companies and stop funding the deep state, and a solution to buy American. This is something we can all do right now to kick the deep state in the teeth and stop funding our enemies and vote with our dollars. We have a parallel economy for around 450 household products. Not only can you cancel woke brands like Procter & Gamble and Johnson & Johnson, you can also cancel the stores that carry them. I need you all to head over to switchwithjohn.com. That's switchwithjohn.com, where you can read all about our movement. We have access to a conservative manufacturer that will replace these brands and the stores you buy them from. It isn't an additional budget item because instead of turning right into Target or left into Walmart, you're going to shop directly online, directly with the manufacturer. Folks, this is a patriot movement that is happening right now before our eyes. Every 47 seconds, a shopper is switching to our online store, and we need you to partner with us. Join us and band together. I just canceled my Amazon Prime subscription because I've truly had enough. So what do you say? It's time to put your money where your heart is? Join us today and help save this nation. Go to switchwithjohn.com. That's switchwithjohn.com to learn how you can join thousands of other patriots and help take this nation back. Switchwithjohn.com. We'll see you there. We're back. We're talking with author Lee Smith. He's got a new book out. It's called Disappearing the President, Trump, Truth Social, and the Fight for the Republic. Lee, I knew back when Lou was alive, you were working on this book for quite some time. Have it out before the election because it's so fundamentally important to the election. Yeah. Tell the audience, if you will, what it was that geared you towards writing this book and some of the key points that you think are most important for the American people to know going into this election with about 30 days left to go.
Well, I think probably the most important case that I make in the book, it's the history of what's happened since 2016 up to the present. And on the cover of the book, as you see, is one of the famous photographs of President Trump getting off the ground at the Butler rally and raising his fist in the air and saying "fight, fight, fight." So it's a history of the different things that have been done to target Donald Trump, to target half of the country, which is just right. Trump supporters are half of the country or more. But the one really important case I make that I think is vital, and it's something that we've all sort of spoken about here and there, but we've never really drilled down hard enough on it. And it's this. We've been talking about things like the deep state or the system, or some people call it the blob and this and that's who's fighting Trump. No. Right. There are names. There are people who are actually behind this. And it's not just a bunch of bureaucrats in Washington, D.C. Right. So the person
I got to say, you're perhaps one of the first and only people to come out and start naming these people. So the name Susan Rice, I heard come out of your mouth more than perhaps anybody's. And all the people that encompassed, this swamp and this cesspool of garbage. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I just had to tell the audience because it's
no, thanks. Well, no, look, it's Barack Obama. Right. I mean, Barack Obama has basically been waving his hand the whole time saying it's me. And of course, people on the left aren't going to cover it. No one has ever asked Barack Obama why he decided to stay in Washington, D.C. But that's a decision that was made in 2013, right at the very beginning of his second term. He said, yeah, I'm staying around after. And so he stayed around, and no one ever asked any questions. And no one in the mainstream press ever said, well, this is weird, because the last guy who did this was Woodrow Wilson. Right. And Wilson had a stroke. Wilson didn't even run his own White House for the last year and a half of his presidency. That was run by his wife. So Barack Obama seems to be in great shape. Why is he here? Oh, his daughter needs to finish high school. Right. Like no one else ever had a daughter in school, a child in school when they were president. No, Barack Obama established a shadow White House in Colorado and a shadow presidency. And that's who was driving the campaign against Donald Trump. And that's who set up the Biden presidency. And that's who set up Kamala Harris to replace Joe Biden. Right? Barack Obama has been very open about this.
Well, why? I mean, Obama deal, a few $1 million, and by few, I think it was like $12 or $15 million house in Martha's Vineyard. He's out there living the life, doing whatever he wants. It seems him and Michelle are living separate lives, which is highly peculiar in my opinion, but considering how close they were in the White House, the media wants to talk about Trump and Melania. Well, maybe you should look a little at Barack and Michelle. Why does he want to run this cabal? What is in it for him? He's got all the money in the world he needs. He's got the houses, the cars. His kids are out, and I wouldn't say his kids are wildly successful, but he has it all. Why does he care to still be in
power? I mean, he's not normal. He's not normal. There's a very important interview by one of my tablet colleagues, David Samuels, who did an interview with one of the Obama biographers, a man named David Garrow, Pulitzer Prize winner, who was also the biographer of Martin Luther King Jr. That's what he won his Pulitzer for. And in this interview, David Garrow says Barack Obama is not normal. He's not a normal politician. He's not a normal person. Right. So that's why this is un-American. Right. This is beyond precedent, beyond protocol that Obama has decided, first of all, just the fact that he decided to stay in Washington. Second, the idea that his involvement in politics has been what it is. And if you look, and I trace this very closely throughout the book, the different decisions you can see where he's raising his hand. He's saying it's me. Everything from changing regulations with the spy agencies so that classified intelligence could become available to more people and, number one, hurt the Trump presidency, right? That was Barack Obama. The person who was actually pushing very hard, it's not just Anthony Fauci and Deborah Birx who are closing to lock things down. It was Barack Obama, and he's announcing it publicly. What he's doing, it's on social media. It's in his phone calls with mayors across the country. So that's what's really important, I think, about this book. Because look, when we talk about the deep state, when we talk about the system, whatever we're talking about, it's an abstraction. Right. There is no political fight there. There's no political program. So you have to start naming people, and you have to start figuring out how you're going to stop those people. Because if your idea about how to restore the republic is we're going to hire 500 lawyers to push around a whole bunch of paper to fire 25,000 bureaucrats, you're going to lose. And it's going to take you 100 years to realize you're going to lose. So what you need to do is you need to narrow your vision, and you need to name people, and you need to identify them and their accomplices, and figure out who's around them, who's pushing money around to accomplish what interests on behalf of whom. So that's a key thing that comes out of this book. And I think that that's something, in addition to telling the story about the long-going campaign against Donald Trump, to destroy Donald Trump, to kill Donald Trump, who's behind it? That's the story that this book tells.
And Lee, like I said, I commend you for all the work you do, because you do. I mean, you were ahead of this curve with everything, and Lou had found you somewhere reading. I guess it was one of your first films you put out with Amanda Milius. The coup against President Trump, but. You were some of the problem is, Lee, is we can put out all this information. We can tell it to the public. We can even bring it to the Justice Department, and nothing happens. I mentioned earlier the 51 intel chiefs who wrote the Russian disinformation letter, which was total bullshit as we know it. And some of them still have security clearances, Lee. So we can go out here and we can call these people out, but at the end of the day, when nobody is doing anything about it, it's like we're standing in a whirlpool, just going around and around. The problem is our side. The problem is our side. Obviously, a DOJ under control of the Bidens is never going to do anything, right? Obviously, this is clear. The idea that Hunter Biden was somehow going to pay for his corruption, from the DOJ. Under the direction of his father, was somehow going to hold Hunter Biden accountable is preposterous, right? The problem is our side. I'm not saying it's not Trump supporters. You get on social media and you see that people are quite aware of what's happened. I mean, the amount of insight and knowledge people you find out, you'll discover different things that people will tell you. Remember this, Lee? Remember when Obama did that? Remember how this happened? Like, it's amazing. The problem is the people on our side, the thought leaders, the podcasters, with the exception of you, my dear friend. But most of the people who are on there, it's like, no, not Obama. You're crazy. That's racist. We're fighting the deep state. Our fight is with the deep state. Look at the people who are running think tanks, who are running conservative pro-Trump organizations inside of Washington and around the country. And they'll tell you, no, what we're going to do is we're going to get a whole bunch of people in there, and we're going to spend
4 years fighting the bureaucracy. How does that sound? That's how we restore our republic. We're going to fight the bureaucracy. Well, let me ask you in real life, and John, I'm sure your viewers will have their own answers, but who in their right mind wakes up one morning and decides the way to get things right in life is to fight the DMV? That's what I'm going to do every day for the next 4 years. I'm going to go out and fight the DMV and get things straight. Right? That's losing. You don't have to have read.
That's a losing battle.
Is the trial to realize how the world really works. What's a fight you can win, and what are the fights that you are destined to lose and to commit endless resources to losing. That's what it's like to fight the deep state, to fight the bureaucracy. Right? It's ridiculous. And look at the facts. Conservatives, Republicans have been complaining about the administrative state for decades. Many tie it back to Woodrow Wilson. Some tie it back even farther to Andrew Jackson. So let's ask a question. If the problem of the administrative state has been going on so long, why did it finally just rise to attack an American president, his aides and supporters in 2016? We have to at least admit there's something there in the chronology, right? No one is saying the bureaucracy is on the side of the republic. By definition, it's not. But we have to look at certain facts and certain details. What are the things that have happened? What are the clues that we get from timelines? And the timeline is precisely that. It says Barack Obama is leaving office in January 2017. That's when he directs the bureaucracy to target Donald Trump, his aides, including General Michael Flynn, and his supporters. That's how this story starts, and that's how my book, Disappearing the President, starts too.
You know, you'd mentioned a little bit a while back, you'd mentioned, if you do mention Barack Obama's name, you're all of a sudden a racist. And in my opinion, this isn't my opinion. This is a fact. It doesn't matter if you're black or white, if you're a bad person or you're Asian or Hispanic. If you're a bad person, you're a bad person. The way you know you're winning the battle is when you get a response like that, when you call somebody out and they come back at you and say you're a racist. That's how you know you're winning the fight. We're talking with Lee Smith, brilliant author. I want to take a quick break here. When we come back, Lee, I want to talk about January 5th, the January 5th conspiracy. Right. Now, a lot of you guys at home are wondering, what the hell is he talking about? Wasn't it January 6th, or what's he talking about? We're coming back with Lee Smith, and he's going to tell us exactly what I'm talking about. Stay with us. We're talking with Lee Smith. We're coming right back. Folks, as a lot of you may know, Mike Lindell and MyPillow no longer have the support of their box stores or shopping channels the way they used to. They've been part of this cancel culture, so they want to pass savings directly on to you. So they're bringing back the $25 extravaganza. When Mike started MyPillow, it was just a one-problem, one-solution company. Well, since then, with the help of his dedicated employees, they now have hundreds of products. Some of you may not even know about. To get the word out, they're having a $25 extravaganza. 2-pack multi-use MyPillows, just $25. MyPillow sandals, $25. Their 6-pack towel sets, $25. 4-pack dish towels, you guessed it, $25. This amazing offer won't last long, so order now. Just go to MyPillow.com or call 800-969-3077. That's MyPillow.com. Use promo code JOHN, John, or call 800-969-3077. And be sure to use promo code JOHN, that's JOHN, for all those amazing savings on all MyPillow products. We're back. We're talking with Lee Smith. And Lee Smith, for any of you who haven't followed Lee, you got to follow Lee on Twitter. You got to follow his work on Tablet and his Substack and all the work that Lee does, because he's a brilliant author and he's a brilliant journalist, and he does the work that the mainstream media doesn't want to do. He's got a new book out called Disappearing the President, Trump, Truth Social, and the Fight for the Republic. Lee, before we went to break, I'd mentioned January 5th, the January 5th conspiracy, one of the chapters in your book. For all the audience out there who are sitting there saying, what the hell is he talking about January 5th? It was January 6th. Tell the audience, if you will, what happened on that day. It's so monumental for this country. Well,
this is the central date, right? You see people on the left, they want to talk about, the insurrection, January 6th, 2021. No, the very important date is January 5th, 2017. Right. And what that is, Barack Obama convenes a meeting in the Oval Office with James Comey, then Vice President, now lame duck President Joe Biden, was in that meeting, as was Susan Rice and other senior Obama officials. And the decision was to continue, this was Barack Obama, to continue the surveillance campaign on Donald Trump, on then President-elect Trump, to continue the surveillance campaign against him and to direct the resources of the federal government against the president-elect and later soon to be the president of the United States. So all of the things that have happened since, it's very important for people to understand that this was directed by Barack Obama. And it started, look, there's a lot of interesting prelude, what happened before that, the different things that Obama is arranging with big tech, the things that he's arranging with the surveillance regime, right? What's happening with our intelligence services. But January 5th, 2017, that is the central date. And that's the, that's why the book starts with an interview with President Trump. But that's how the real story about what's happened to our great country over the nearly 8 years. That's where it starts. January 5th, 2017. So that's why I call it the January 5th, conspiracy, January 5th coup. And it continues to roll on. And we've seen everything that's happened since then. Russiagate, the special counsel investigation. I bring it up through what happened after Donald Trump left office, the raid on Mar-a-Lago, the lawfare campaign, shocking stuff.
Well, I mean, you had 2 impeachments in between. Can you imagine, Lee, if they would have let this man go in there and just do his damn job, what could have happened? We might not have a war in the Middle East right now between Hamas and Israel. We might not have a war right now between Ukraine and Russia. Iran might not be firing missiles out of their country into Israel as we speak. Israel might not be preparing to build a nuclear weapon to send over the Atlantic Ocean into America. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. If they would have just let this man do his job, but I mean, it's more than apparent now that they care more about fighting and building a cabal to have this man gone and be vanished so he doesn't expose who they are. And I think this administration is going to be a lot different than the last one. The last one, he was surrounded by, and you know this perhaps better than anybody else, he was surrounded by a lot of bad people who geared him towards doing bad things, policy-wise. And, I mean, he also had good people doing good things. The Abraham Accords, I'm convinced if they weren't signed, Israel wouldn't be there right now. I mean, I think it would be non-existent, in my opinion. But he was surrounded by elite deep staters. Do you think, and I've asked you this before, and you're a little in the middle on it, do you think in this 2024, 2025 administration, President Trump weeds out that garbage and finally bleach bits the damn deep state?
Yeah. Well, I mean, one of the villains in my book is President Trump's second attorney general, William Barr. William Barr was a very, as it turns out, he wasn't just unhelpful. He was a very destructive character. And I lay that argument out pretty clearly in the book. No, I'm quite certain of it. I mean, this is one of the things that the president spoke about with me during our interviews. He said, there were some bad people that were recommended to me, including William Barr, that were recommended to me, and and all of the people around the president right now, I think are very solid. And the voters, right? This is what the voters are saying. This is what the voters want. A future potential Trump administration stay focused. It understands who its friends are, and not only who its enemies are, but where its enemies are too, in order to fight them and do the job that needs to be done for the American people.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I want to wrap up with a focal point that we've heard now for the last, 4 years, we'll say, 3.5, 4 years, and it's January 6th. It's been the Democrats' point on everything they do against President Trump. He's a domestic terrorist. He's got charges in D.C. from it. Hundreds of people sit in the D.C. gulag. I spoke to one the other day from his jail cell. Some of these people are overcharged. Some of them, no trials. I mean, the justice system here looks like one that you'd see in Brazil or Venezuela or a third world country. How do we right this wrong, Lee, and correct this ship? Because I think middle America, MSNBC did a panel with union workers a few weeks ago, and they asked them all about January 6th, and you could tell these guys didn't give a damn. Half of them didn't even know what it was. They were saying December 6th, February 7th. They didn't know what it was. How do we right this ship that the Democrats have just they've left us? And the other thing I just want to mention really quickly, we heard from Michael Horowitz over the last 2 weeks about a report that's coming out, but of course it's not coming out until after the election, about how many, confirmed, FBI informants were there on January 6th, how many of them entered the Capitol, and how many of them were as trespassers. And we don't know the answer to it, but we do know they existed. Why are the American people not hearing about this and seeing this?
Well, as I explain in the book, Horowitz is not a good guy. Horowitz helped cover up Russiagate for the FBI, and the idea that they're not going to come out with anything, an inspector general's report on January 6th until after the election. I mean, we may not, if Donald Trump doesn't win, we probably won't see it after the election either. We'll probably never see it. They'll bury it. Look, because January 6th is the core of the Democratic Party's legitimacy. Right? That's all they have right now. That's what they mean when they say, we have to protect our democracy. We're protecting our democracy. Well, what do you mean? It's like, well, Donald Trump is an insurrectionist and his supporters are insurrectionists and we must protect democracy. So, but as you said, John, a lot of people around the country don't care. Others have no idea what happened. Others are broken. Right, because some of the people who did come to demonstrate, to protest on January 6th, they've been broken by this corrupt regime. Right. But if you look, why is it so important to them? Because they can't talk about their actual policies. They can't talk about what happened. Like, so we've left the borders open for 3.5 years. That's why there's 25 million illegal aliens who have crossed our border, including felons, terrorists, no doubt, hostile spy services as well. They can't talk about that. They can't talk about the economy. They can't talk about inflation. They can't talk about any of these things, honestly. So that's why they have to keep talking about democracy. And of course, I'm not mocking democracy. I'm mocking the way that they talk about it, because it's always in scare quotes for them. January 6th is the core of their legitimacy. Once people understand, once there is widespread understanding of what actually happened on January 6th, not an insurrection, once people actually understand, then they will lose the last shred of legitimacy they have, because putting that lie together with the destructive things they've done to this country, not over the last 3.5 years, but over at least 8 years, the way they attacked and undermined Donald Trump, the way they attacked and undermined regular Americans, which is just disgusting, then that piece will fall out too. And God willing, people will see more clearly what's happened to our country. But to get there, Donald Trump is going to have to win next month.
The book is Disappearing the President, Trump, Truth Social, and the Fight for the Republic. It's available for pre-order now. Lee, when is the book out officially? Where can people go buy it?
They can buy it directly from Encounter Books. The book is out October 22nd now. But please go ahead and pre-order. You can get it from Encounter Books. Of course, you can get it from the other big book distributors as well. You can get it from Amazon, Barnes & Noble. And also I always encourage people to patronize their local independent booksellers.
Lee, you're a great American. Again, the book is Disappearing the President, Trump, Truth Social, and the Fight for the Republic. Lee Smith is a great author, and he's done a lot for this country, folks. For any of you who don't know Lee, you better get to know him, because he's been a very big voice in this fight for truth, justice, in the American way from 2016, especially on until now. And I don't think Lee's going anywhere anytime soon, because I think his fight has just begun. Lee, you're a great American. Thanks so much, my friend.
Thank you very much, John. God bless you.
Thanks, Lee Smith, and thank you, everybody, for being with us today. Be sure to pre-order that book, Disappearing the Presidents. Lee Smith, as I said, intrepid journalist, one of the best out there in getting the truth out there. And there's no sugarcoating anything with Lee. It's truth, justice, and the American way. Please be sure to join us back here tomorrow for the Great America Show as our quest for truth, justice, and the American way continues. Be sure to follow me on Twitter at John Fawcett NY, at John Fawcett NY, and on Truth Social at John Fawcett. We'll see you right back here tomorrow. May God bless you. God bless America, and may God bless the great Lou Dobbs.